we going? Help me! Help!
So we're here with the guys from The Witcher 3, and we finally got a chance to play the game and sit down and talk to them. Give your names.
Hello, I'm Marcin Iwiński. I'm the co-founder and joint CEO.
And I'm Damien Monnier. I'm a senior gameplay designer at CD Projekt Red.
A professional and perfectionist.
Professional perfectionist.
Now, one of the things, that's kind of different about The Witcher 3 is you guys are like really seeming to bring in more the characters from the books. And was that like a big focus for you guys to try to bring in characters like Ciri and Yennefer and tie that more closely to the narrative?
I think what we said with The Witcher Wild Hunt, we are closing the trilogy, and all these things have to come together. Hence, you'll see the characters from the previous parts, and we want to tie up the knots and close up the story, and whenever gamers will finish the game, have a sense of completion. So it's obvious we had to feature the characters from the previous games, and obviously because the games are based on the story from the books, that's why you see so many characters showing up. Having said that, I think it's really important to stress that The Witcher Wild Hunt can be played without knowing the books, without knowing Witcher 1 nor Witcher 2. Of course, if you're familiar with the lore, you will see a lot of different little things on the sides, and I think you will have even more fun, but that's not necessary. I think that's probably the most standalone game to date, because in Witcher 1 and 2 you had a lot of ties. Right now Witcher 3 it's closing the story, but you don't need to know Witcher 1 or Witcher 2.
In terms of combat, what did you look at in Witcher 2 and kind of want to improve, and what was kind of your goal with the combat system in the third game?
Basically, we listen to people a lot. The community, that's key. Why? Because they'll tell you how we can improve. They'll tell you what they didn't like, what they liked. But really, with the combat system, we totally revamped it. People wanted something that's maybe a little more accessible, a little more responsive. We've added hundreds of animations to it, literally. The way you dodge, parry, most of them you will unlock as well in the tree, the combat tree, if that's what you want to do. But really, overall, the combat is, I hate to say, easy to play, hard to master, whatever you call it, but I've just said it. So there you have it. It's true, and you see it today. You've been able to play, you pick it up really quickly, you're able to just pull some really cool moves very easily, yet still challenging. And the challenge comes from the enemy types, the way they will attack you and how you can parry that. So I like this combat system.
What are some examples of like how you've, not balanced just that, but balanced maybe patient versus impatient?
Well, it's simple. If you button mash, you'll get away with it maybe at the beginning, but ultimately some monsters will just keep dodging until you learn that, okay, there is a pattern, I need to wait until they're close, and so on and so forth. It's part of understanding the monsters and who you're fighting. You will research that. All this information will be displayed as well in the game. Whether you hear something about a certain monster that will come at, I don't know, say at midnight, and also how to fight that particular monster. So it's all about, you are a monster slayer at the end of the day. That's your job. So you must roleplay a monster slayer. You must know your enemy and know how to kill it.
What was it like building? Now you have this full world to explore, and not just in terms of the scale, but in terms of how much there is in terms of like nooks and crannies. Was that kind of something that you felt like? Did you need to hire a different team? Did you need to take a different approach to how you design the world? I'm thinking specifically like I went down the well and then like come out in the lake nearby.
Well, the example that you're giving, the well is part of a quest. So what's going to happen is we have the writers that will write a cool story. They will be working with a quest designer. The quest designer will say, okay, at some point we need a well, and then he will be working with someone from location. So it's teamwork. It's not just one team that will do a certain thing. It's just everybody will work together. And then we have the living world guys, for example. So that's more, maybe bandits that you will see, that you will come across, these little events that are peppered everywhere. So it's a massive teamwork to make sure that also it makes sense. Everything has to make sense. We don't want to just put stuff in there just for the sake of it. It just has to flow, and it's not overwhelming either. It's just there if you want to interact with it. I think it's nicely balanced. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it all started from a grand vision. So really telling the story in a huge living and breathing open world. So we started from the story we wanted to tell, and then we were shaping the world according to it, and then adding the touches of life. That's what Damien just mentioned with peppering the world. So for me, the first 10 or 20 hours I was playing the game, of course I was following initially at least the main storyline, and then I was like, wow, there's a river, I'll swim to the river, and then there are some bandits, there are some side quests, and maybe these are not the really important things. That's not the key part of the story of what the world is about, but that's, I think, the beauty of being a part of a living world. Or maybe I'll just go monster hunting. I'll just do the assignment. Like, I'm a professional monster slayer. I think also in The Witcher 3 we are putting a lot of attention to it, so you can spend hours just hunting monsters and running around like crazy. That's what I love about The Witcher Wild Hunt.
Well, one thing I noticed too when you're talking about the living world is I feel like the characters, even minor characters in this game, look very different than the typical gamey characters. Did you guys do a lot of extra work in terms of reference and making sure that there was variety in those characters?
Yeah, we are trying to make every single character unique. With even if it's a small side story for this character, yes, maybe this little. Old granny with the frying pan in the prologue. I think that's a beauty that there's a story. It's witty, and she has a problem, and for her, her frying pan is gone. I mean, how stupid it sounds, but it plays an important element. When I saw this quest for the first time, I was like, wow, that's what I like. That's what I like about this RPG.
I'll bite. What's the famous Dienga Fret need a witcher for?
I'm guessing you're a man of the world. Perhaps you've come across the Grossbart brothers in your travels.
You hunting them?
Aye, quite the rogues they are. 3 of them, and every one's got a pack of rapes and murders under his belt. Even took to grave robbing lately. Easy to recognize on account of the yellow caps they wear.
How would you recommend somebody pace themselves when you get into this? Because again, I'm starting to walk down the road, go towards the quest mark, and it's like, oh, there's a board, there's a quest, there's all this stuff right around you. Like how, like if somebody is just getting into it, like
it's an extremely personal question.
Yeah.
How do you like your tea? With milk or maybe with lemon or iced tea maybe. I mean, it's really up to you how you play the game. I mean, for me, I'll be story. Yeah. A lot of guys will be heavily on combat. Some people will spend tens of hours running around and doing monster hunting and not following the main storyline. So it's really up to you. I think the most important advice I could have is just have fun. Don't get too stressed. Wow, I didn't do all the subquests. Yes, I mean, you're fine to replay the game as many times as possible. There are multiple different endings, and there's so many consequences and decisions in every single quest, which are very meaningful to what happens around you. That you can replay this game many times and play it maybe very differently next time around, because you have explored all the areas before, and right now you just want to do the story, or maybe the other way around.
So kind of wrapping things up, you guys have had a lot of ambitious goals on every front. What has been the most difficult part of that? Of what has been the greatest challenge that maybe kicked your butt and said, hey, we need to push this game back?
I think for me, the answer that, I mean, I could probably come up with a list of things, but I think it's the scale. It's the sheer scale of things and making it all works and making it all fun. And I think we're almost there. just couple months and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't push, like you were saying, some feature is kicking our butt. We need to push the date. That's not really what happened, to be honest with you. It's more, we knew the challenges and we're professionals, so we approached it from a very, tidy, orderly manner. It's just what happened is we're perfectionists and we generally wanted everything to be perfect. And if something wasn't as awesome as the rest, we decided to spend more time on it. It's not. But I'm more than happy that we were allowed to do this, to be honest with you. I've never had this freedom as a game dev before, so for me it's brilliant. Just say, yeah, want to spend more time on it. Because we're perfectionists, aren't we?
No, you are.
Professional
perfectionist, no, man. Should I say, good for you, man? No, we are. We are trying to make it a really involving and compelling adventure, and I really, when I was looking at you guys playing, even looking at this couple of hours, you played very differently, and I think that's what we wanted to achieve, because people will experience this game in many different ways, and that's great. That's freedom of gaming. I love it. That's the freedom of open world.
Well, thanks a lot, guys, and thanks for letting us finally get our hands on it after all this time.
I hope it was worth the wait.
What's wrong with my beard? Always thought it added to my dignity.
It does. Yet it also detracts from your elegance. In Nilfgaard, we consider beards hard on the eyes. Especially beards infested with lice.